Hi, Phoebe. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really happy to be here and to chat with you.
Yeah, I'm so excited. First things first, tell everybody who you are, kind of your story, what you do, just to give a little bit of context.
Yeah, so I am the founder of Girl Gang Craft. We are a fem-forward community for creatives. We have a craft fair in the West Coast, California. So we're do Sacramento and Oakland over there, and then I live over here in Salem, Massachusetts. So we have some craft fairs over in the Massachusetts area, in Rhode Island, and we have a podcast, and we do classes and courses, and have a feminist clothing line.
Oh, I love it. So you host your own craft fair. So I would assume you're probably a good old specialist on all of things craft fairs. What do you feel like is one of the major elements of success at a craft fair?
Yeah, that's a great question. I could probably talk about for an hour.
I'm sure.
I think like the most important thing is like finding the exact event that works for you
Yeah,
and having patience with it. Like maybe like this event worked really well for you this year, but maybe this season it didn't. And like just knowing that that's sort of the ebb and flow of things, understanding that there's so many factors with craft fairs. Not only
yeah,
like is the event a good fit in terms of like vibes and other vendors and like how you slot into all of that, but
yeah,
also like location and weather.
yeah.
I'm of course on the other side of things. I'm on both sides of things. I've been participating in craft fairs for I guess almost 10 years now.
Wow.
So, like, I really see both sides, and you want to find a good vibe. You want to feel supported by not only the vendors around you, but by the hosts of the show. And another like little one that I'll add in is like it's really important to like be as present as possible, to not be on your phone, to use these events as almost like an experiment, right? Like
Yeah.
coming in with a good attitude as best you can, right? Without like toxic positivity, but like coming in and like um having it be a space for you to see like what people are picking up, and like even maybe if you just move this item in a different way, maybe that's more attractive to folks, or really understanding it's a great time to figure out who your target audience is, right? Because generally online you don't get that information.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe you get their email or their location, but you like don't see what they look like or what their vibes are. And these customers are literally coming into your booth, and that is such good tangible information. So make a mental note, write that shit down,
Totally.
etc. Like you learn so much.
Yeah, that's something I say to a lot of my clients that are at markets as well, is use it as market research. Even if it doesn't work out, even if you're not making thousands of dollars in sales that weekend, you can use it as market research because you're actually talking to customers. And at the point where you can like see somebody walking up to your booth and saying, "Oh, that's my ideal customer," you really get to understand, okay, these people are exactly who I want to attract. These people might buy from me, but they're not my ideal customer, and that person might not be my person. And there's very few times that you actually get to like have a conversation, even if it's brief, with your ideal customer, unless you're doing market research studies and things like that. And it's a great opportunity for that.
Yeah, and it's a great opportunity to like test even new items also. Maybe you're
Yeah.
doing sort of like a lower batch of something, just seeing how that works. Maybe you're even testing colors. Like
Mm.
I find it fascinating. I'm here in Salem, Massachusetts. So it's very witchy, and it's like black witchy. Things are, everyone's black and white or gold or silver, right? Like
Yeah.
with their merch and stuff. And here I am with a lot of pink stuff. And I also have, sort of that witchy vibe with some of our products. And we have this like divinity sweatshirt, and there's a black version and there's a pink version. And that pink version is our bestseller here in Salem. It like stands out. And so that's just fascinating to me too. Like
Yeah.
really using these opportunities, like what environment are you going into? Because it's like all of these environments are different. I mean, Salem, Massachusetts is a weird place that's like a tourist town, right? And like a very specific tourist town.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
so you just get like so much valuable information wherever you are. And I urge you to, consider not just thinking about your sales, thinking about like how did this event move the needle forward on a holistic level.
For sure. Who did you have connections with? What other businesses did you connect with? The how did you get to connect with your audience? So much of that. And when you're talking about picking a good market, I think it's hard to do because I've had clients that are like, Maddie, this market was insane. I have no idea why. I've also had people say, Maddie, that market was a total bust. Like it was not my person. I made like one sale and I sat there for hours. What do you feel like it's important as somebody that like hosts these markets? Oh, I think I might have lost you. There you are.
Hi.
I don't
I
know.
don't know what happened.
Yeah, I don't know. But as somebody that hosts these markets and kind of puts the events on, what do you feel like it's important to ask or to look for? What information do you feel like people should be looking at prior to saying this is a market that I want to be at?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And I think it depends like who your target audience is,
Yeah.
right? So we attract a lot of vendors who are millennials, maybe Gen X, maybe Gen Z, and those mostly are their customers, right? Like, are you sort of do you have a high scale, upscale product, right? The reason I started GGC at the beginning was I was looking for places to sell that were affordable
Yeah.
and inclusive. And also, that was sort of around the time when everything was really in the minimalistic vibe. Everything was like white and beige, and that was not me.
Yeah.
So I felt a little like different than some of the other vendors, and maybe markets weren't choosing me because I was sort of a different vibe. So like our events are very colorful, and a lot of our vendors are really politically focused.
Yeah.
Um, so like that's going to be a different event than an upscale like art
Sure.
space. Like I went to a craft fair on Cape Cod and recently, and it's very different than our fair, right? Like there was a lot of like nautical things and all the vendors were Gen X or boomers. So like there's a different vibe, and like they were probably killing it on Cape
Yeah.
Cod. That audience,
That's
they
who's
found their
there.
audience, they found their space, right? So I think things that like you can look at are like, what does the branding look like of the craft fair? That's going to give you a lot of information, right? Are they bright and colorful? Are they minimalistic? Did they kind of do like a shitty Canva job? It's going to be at the
Totally.
church.
Yeah.
It's going to be a winter church craft fair. Whatever. Like those markets might be your target audience. Like I have made money at a church craft fair before. Like I'm not saying don't do that, but I'm just saying like align yourself with markets that feel good, and then you know also the craft fair team is everything, right? I mean, I of course am biased. I love my team. We try so hard to support our vendors. We try so hard in various different ways to get the word out about the craft fair. We want everyone to feel good. Obviously, you can't guarantee sales for anyone. You also
Mhm.
can't even guarantee foot traffic. Like as a craft fair host, there's so many factors that we don't have control over. But you can sense it the way that they speak in their branding, the way that they,
Yeah.
communicate with you in their emails. And of course, thinking about location too. Like, do you think this town is a good fit for me? Do you think this building makes sense for me? Like all of these factors. And then also I just say like, go ahead and try it.
Yeah.
See if it is. And maybe you're so different than the other folks too. That could also be a good thing. So like,
Sure.
you really don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing. I mean, it can be the perfect craft fair and it can be pouring rain and it'll not be a good option for you. And then it's like, shoot, like this was something I was counting on. And so at the end of the day, they can market it perfectly for you and the weather makes a big difference, which I think is really interesting.
Yes, weather's everything.
It
And
is on like a
it
gorgeous
is,
75 and sunny degree day. A market sounds fantastic, but on a rainy and like
yeah,
sun-beating 60-degree day, maybe not.
a
When we talk
hard
about this,
thing.
yeah, yeah, right. Oh my gosh. So something that I see a lot when it comes to markets is people can sell at markets and they're like, okay, people love my product. They get there, they can feel it, they can see it, they can smell it, they can taste it, whatever it is. And then they come online and they just feel like their sales are not translating online. From somebody that's done both, what do you feel like that major gap is between making in-person sales versus online sales?
Well, I just listened to your podcast about this the other day.
Yeah.
And I think you had some really good points. I'm going to try to add to the conversation. I think It's hard. I think it's challenging. I think, like you mentioned too, in one of the podcasts, or maybe it was your post the other day, that people come to market ready to buy,
Mhm.
especially here in Salem, right? People are on vacation. People like want something witchy. They want souvenirs. So that's already a warm lead, right? Um, and I think, I think it's just challenging. I think it's hard to stand out online. I think I'm looking at my Divinity sweatshirt and it's our most popular item in person, but it has a hard time online.
Yeah.
And I think the major reason is people touch it and they love it because it's
Yeah.
just like so soft.
Mhm.
And I'm also looking at this candle right next to me, and candles are hard too. You have to be a good copywriter or hire a good copywriter to explain the scent of a candle,
For sure.
you know? Or
Candles
you have
all
to have
online.
really good packaging. I bought 2 candles online the other day immediately. I saw these 2 gorgeous candles. I loved the way that they described their scent.
Mhm.
$70 later with my Apple Pay, like, they were they were bought.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, I think, there's so many reasons, like, right? I think a lot of people in the craft fair world, like, they bring their personality to the table, right? So if they're at a space, I always suggest, here's a couple of like in-person tips too, right? Um, I suggest doing an open-ended question. That's not just a yes or no. So like, or a how are you? I like to, especially around the holidays. Are you shopping for someone in particular? I think
Mm,
that's a really good one because
yeah.
that narrows things down, that gets the conversation going. Or who are you shopping for? That's
Mm,
a good one.
yeah.
Um, Here, I know I keep on talking about Massachusetts, but it's such uh, like, what tour items did you do today? Or like, where are you visiting from?
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
so like getting more information about the customer
Mhm.
helps guide them. Um, what else? Like, yeah, I mean, I love doing things like we've done a buy two, get one free for our pins for almost our whole time in business, and that's been
Yeah,
really successful. Like, how can we get the amount per order up? I think that same thing goes online. But I think it is tricky online, right? There's so much noise on social media. Like, how are you getting your people to your website? Um, you know, through social media, right? You should have a consistent social media practice, um, email marketing, at least. Like, those are the 2 things that you need at least. And I talk to so many vendors that don't have an email list or aren't using it consistently or don't know what to talk about
yeah,
or don't know how to get people on it.
for sure.
Um,
Yeah.
we do have an email class also. But I think craft fairs are a really good opportunity to get people on your email list too. Like, you can offer them um like a prize or a discount or some sort of raffle, like really getting people, making sure that you're using the craft fairs as a way to get people from in person, human to human, online somewhere, whether that's following you on the gram or, getting them on your email list.
For sure. Yeah, I think that's the easiest. And you get to nurture them then in somewhere else. Like they see you in person, they've already got to see, feel, smell. They got that like in person connection that when you can get them online, even if they didn't buy from you in person, you can kind of nurture them there and they've already had that like first good impression with you. So kind of going back to the booth, you gave some really good kind of tips there is how to open it up, how to have that conversation. Where do you feel in a booth setting, like in a market setting, in a craft fair, what are the key parts kind of the design of the booth, of how you speak to people, that you feel like makes the biggest difference?
Yeah, I mean, I think it really depends on the product.
Yeah.
Um, we're posting shortly like the transformation about all of our booths, and know that it takes time. Know that like you might want to invest more in it later, or your branding changes, or you try new things. Like, know that you don't need to get all of your things at once. Um, I think there's sort of a debate in the world of craft fair vendors, like if you want people to come into your space or if you want sort of stuff on the edge.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of people have different opinions about that.
Mhm.
Um, and I can go both ways. And I think it also depends on the product. Like my space, we have shelves and our apparel rack. So we do want to invite people in.
Mhm.
I've been thinking about getting a little spinning thing for
Yeah,
like
that'd be so
discounts,
fun. Mhm.
like some sort of way to attract people in, right? Um, but like some basic stuff, like levels, I think are really important. I see a lot of beginning creatives who are just putting stuff on a table.
Yeah.
You want to like create eye levels. Um, I think if you have anything that smells or needs to be touched, like having that easy to access in some way makes sense. Um, what else? Big branding, right? Like your information somewhere, whether it's, I mean, I think ideally you have your business name somewhere and then you also have ways to stay in touch. And then maybe you're also asking people too. Like, I think people aren't just going to write their, like, sometimes maybe they'll write your email list, but you want to offer them something in exchange. And that works in the online space as well, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, and that incentive makes such a difference. A lot of times I tell a lot of my clients to do like a giveaway, and anybody that follows you for the next 48 hours on Instagram is going to be entered to win a $20 gift card. And so that allows for people to get to your Instagram, and even when they go home, they have a little bit of time if they're still thinking about you. And I think I mean, it's obviously easier to, like, they can never go back and write their email again, but at that point they can be like, what was the name of that place? Let me go and search it when they get home and they're kind of thinking about it. And I think that's so important is because you're at a market, yes, you can do the market research. Yes, you might be able to get a couple of sales, but you can turn these people into long-term customers by getting them deeper into your world.
Yeah. And I think about like thinking about how you're doing that too on the back end. Like, if they're following you, that's great. Like that's going to be a long-term situation, nurture system. But like maybe even thinking about more strategically, like we have a QR code that gets them on our list, and then we have an email sequence that automatically goes out to them.
Yeah, that's great. That's a good point, is having like a market specific, like join the email list here in this form, and then having a sequence that goes after that. It's a great way to do it.
Yeah, and figuring out what you're saying to them. Are you giving them a discount afterwards? Like, really nurturing that face to face, because that face to face point of contact, if you will, is very valuable and is probably more valuable than 1 to 2 to 3 Instagram reactions.
100%. Yeah, it's like when you can actually speak to them in some extent, and even like when they meet you in person and then they follow you online, they already feel way more connected to you because they had that in person connection to you. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome. Do you feel like there's any major don'ts when it comes to markets? Like make sure you don't do this, or like red flags at joining a market because of these different things. Anything that you're like, this is something I've learned that is just a no-no.
Yeah, I mean, I think being on the phone, and like maybe it's at the end of the time and you're tired and you need a few minutes on the phone. I get that.
Yeah.
I'm an extrovert. So I am
Just that.
struggling how to be an introvert
Yeah.
again, or like re-understanding, or I guess I was never an introvert. I was always an extrovert. So like re-understanding how to be an introvert and talk to people
Yeah.
is weird. So I have compassion for folks that these interactions are harder. I really do. But I believe if you want to take the craft fair seriously, which I think you should, I think that's a good use of your time, then
Yeah.
you should really figure out how to make yourself comfortable to carry on conversation. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's easy, it is really taxing. Like, make sure you have your water, make sure you have your 1 to 2 coffees, like,
Your
you know,
snacks, pick up a little
take any
something.
sort of meds you need, like nurture yourself, snacks. Maybe you're someone who needs to work with someone else. Maybe you need
Yeah.
your partner there or a friend there. And if you're lucky enough to be able to have someone there the whole time, like that's awesome. If not, like figuring out, how to use the restroom and having your neighbor like watch your space or whatever, take what you need, but like be present when you're there,
Yeah.
I think is really important.
Yeah, I totally see that. And something that I hear a lot of people say is they're like, "Yeah, but like I don't want to be too salesy, so I don't want to say anything right away." What's your take on that?
Yeah, well, we're selling things, so
We are here selling.
I think that's a big, thing I hear all the time about being, on in the online space and in the real space, and I think what people are saying is that they don't want to be a used car salesman who's like
I don't want to be sharky.
oily.
Yeah.
Yeah, but having conversations and being proud about your product is the right way to be salesy. And yeah, the goal of you being at the craft fair is to sell things.
Mhm.
So, like, I do think there is a balance about being in someone's face and giving them space to look at things.
Yeah.
I think you also have to read your audience, right? Again, like we have that
Oh,
introvert extrovert situation and, many uh other factors if people want to talk to you or not. And, sort of reading the room, reading their personality too for how much they want to interact. But I think asking, these open-ended questions or at least like being physically open to and available,
yeah.
um, I think is really, yeah, important.
Yeah, I agree, and I think there is an element of the when you speak to them, they're gonna check things out a little bit more. And at the end of the day, like you said earlier, having pins or something smaller, some stickers or greeting cards or prints or something that if they're kind of cycling through and they're on their own fruition, you're not saying anything to them, they haven't made that personal connection point yet, they are much more likely to do like a quick little once over and want to leave. Whereas if you speak to them, they're gonna like kind of poke around and see things, and they're more likely to, at the end of the day, even just buy something that's spot. Like they'll find something a little bit easier if they spend more time in your booth, and that time in the booth is so important. What
Yeah.
do you feel for like are some good ideas for some of those smaller items to just increase your average order value or to just get somebody to buy something? Because people are at markets to buy too. It's like it's not that we're just there to sell. People are there to buy. So they have that like I've bought so much stupid things at markets. I come home and I'm like, that was just because you told me a cute story that it was your grandma's toffee recipe. And I don't even really like toffee, but like I wanted to support the grandma who you're like carrying on or something that I'm like, honestly, I just wanted to buy something. So I bought it. And I'm like, well, now I have this bread and this like dipping sauce. Like it's great. I guess I just go to markets for food. But what are some of those little small things or things like that that you feel like are good to add to your booth to kind of boost that average order value?
Yeah, I mean, so like I said earlier, we do a buy two, get one free for our pins. And we
Yeah.
basically did that for our stickers. Although we call it different. Three stickers for,
The
I
price
don't
of
know, something like that. Three stickers for the price of two. I don't know.
same
Um,
bucket.
yeah. And then, yeah, I mean, I think stickers are great. I mean, I'm sort of also struggling on a personal level with like the sustainability of products. So that's
Yeah.
just something I've been thinking about,
Yeah.
which is a whole other tangent. But I do think stickers are great. I think pins are great, although I'm finding also that pins are maybe a little past the trend. I don't know. I don't know. I'm getting a little bit more resistance around the pins. But yeah, I think little items are good. How can you boost the average order value? Yeah, like I said earlier too, I think offering a discount or maybe even if someone buys a $60 thing, like what can you throw in their bag with them? Or are
Yeah.
you advertising that? Or is that sort of like afterwards?
Yeah.
Or
Are
some
you
sort of
pro
special?
market? Yeah, market special.
I think so. I mean, yeah, I think there's ways to do it. Like if someone is following you and you say all followers get a certain amount, or like maybe even rotate your offers
Yeah.
each week. Like let's say you're at the same market all the time or like a similar or like in a similar space or something. This market I'm offering this market I'm offering that. That keeps people excited and variety. I think there are lots of different ways to do it. I mean, being on sale all the time is like another can of worms. But hopefully we've all booked wholesale prices into our margins. So
Yes.
having a 20% off, it could be a good way to get people to buy more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. And one more kind of camp that I feel like people have is are you pro showing your pricing up front or having it kind of hidden but they can still find it?
This is a good question. I think it is controversial.
It is.
I had a friend who I feel like I've done both, and I feel like a lot of people try both. And I do encourage you to do both. I think figure out what works for you.
Yeah.
I don't want to put pricing stickers on all my stuff. Like that's not what I want to do. I have a little pricing sign. I think the sign is a good option. People are going to always ask how much things are, even if there's pricing stickers,
Yeah.
no matter what. I had a friend who did jewelry and she didn't have pricing on them for a while because she wanted people to talk to her, which I find fascinating. She kills it. She kills it at markets. She kills it. She's the best salesperson I know. I can serenade Katie Dean Jewelry. She's amazing. And yeah, I know that she switched. I don't know her why that she switched, but I know that she does have price tags now.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think whatever works for you, again, this introvert extrovert thing, is someone going to look at that necklace, see that it doesn't have a price tag, and decide they care enough to ask you how much it is.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it depends on the person.
I think it's very interesting. I think it's also dependent on your product. But in the camp that I've always been at is have it be accessible, but don't have it be right in their face all the time, because you want that kind of emotion to build first. You want them to like fall in love and be like, wow, I love this mug, and then like flip it over and be like, okay, is this a price that I want to spend on it? But I see it both ways, where it makes way more sense to not have to have that conversation. You don't want the introverted people to not have the opportunity to see the price, and they probably won't ask. They would just walk away. And it's so much more awkward when you're like, how much is this? And then they give you a price, and then you're like, okay, not what I wanted. And then just walk away. It's just like, it adds kind of that element of awkwardness to it. So I do think it's a good thing to test, and probably different audiences, different areas are going to be different in that camp of things as well. Moving to something that I've heard you talk about that I'm interested in is, you say that the to-do list is dead, that like the to-do list is not something that you need anymore. It's dead. There's a different way for it. What is that? What do you feel like replaced that to-do list?
Yeah. So I think the to-do list is the go-to for a lot of people. And I think a lot of creative people love to use their pad of paper and write things down. Yes. But if you have a really long ass to-do list, it's going to stress you out.
For sure.
Period. For the most case, maybe it doesn't. I've had people say that it doesn't stress them out. It stresses me out if I have a long to-do list. I mean, I'm stressed out all the time, so I don't know. But even if you have a to-do list for the day, you're probably not going to finish it.
Yeah.
There's probably going to be stuff left over on the to-do list. In fact, there might be stuff on your to-do list for the rest of your life. And you might not feel accomplished, and you might feel stressed. And there's always something to do. Now, I know we live in a capitalistic society where productivity is the way. But I don't want my life to be fully stressed all the time as much as possible. And I don't want to feel like I haven't accomplished things. I want to feel like I've accomplished things.
Yeah, 100%.
Yes. So there are other ways to do things than the to-do list. And it's really as simple as scheduling. And I know a lot of people are like, okay, well, I schedule things, no problem. But we want to schedule things like meetings, maybe your workouts, maybe your, your family obligations, whatever, and your tasks for the day on each day. The cool thing about this is you can also look ahead. So like, let's say I really need to make sure I reorder that thing. But that can be on your to-do list, but you don't need to do it right away. Like maybe you need to like reorder your blank sweatshirts, whatever. But you could put it on your calendar from 3 weeks from now on the date and do it then. So like that takes the stress off of that task from today.
I like that. So instead of having this like forever long to-do list of like, okay, I'll cross it off when I get there, you just schedule it for the day that it actually makes sense to do.
Yes. And if you don't finish, okay, so then back to each day. So like I suggest 3-ish tasks in theory. I always go above this and I never finish all my tasks, right? We always think that we can do more than we actually do. Like, things come up.
Tomorrow.
Right. Yeah. And you just move it to the next day. Exactly. You just move it to the next day that makes sense. Or maybe you realize like actually this doesn't need to be prioritized now and this can actually move to next week. So like you have flexibility in it. If I were to show my Google Cal right now, I use Google Cal. I like color code things. So everything, like my workouts go in like orange, my meetings go in purple, the rest is like light blue. And then when I finish it, I get to turn it green. So
Mhm.
like that's kind of exciting. And then like, let's say I'm on Friday, which tends to be sort of an overflow day. I can actually look and see what I didn't get done too and
I
move
like that.
things around.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you still get kind of the satisfaction of crossing something off. You get to turn it green. You get to say, "Okay, I accomplished all of these things," as well as you get to kind of see, "Okay, what am I doing today?" And I think something that's really important here is you're sitting down at the beginning of the day and you already have your 3 major things that you're doing. You're not looking at this never-ending to-do list being like, "Okay, what the heck am I supposed to do here? Which one of these do I wanna do today? What do I have to prioritize?" You already have them prioritized. Do
Yes.
you map them out the day, like, one at a time, or do you map them out a week at a time, 3 days at a time? How do you kinda go through that?
Yeah. So it depends. I mean, I think what you said is really important for neurodivergent folks or everyone. Like when you're looking at a long ass list,
Yeah,
like you're gonna not want to do any of it and you're gonna probably pick up your phone. Like that decision fatigue is really real. And I have ADHD sort of semi recently figured it out. And yeah, it's really hard for me to task switch and to figure out what tasks I'm doing.
yeah,
So I always say it's important to come to the desk with a plan. If you sit down without a plan, you're gonna like check your email, be on Slack, go on your phone. You're not gonna prioritize those bigger projects.
for
And
sure.
still, even with prioritizing the bigger projects, it's challenging, right? Because there's things that come up that maybe have to be prioritized, right? Like I keep on moving back these like major projects I want to do because there's event stuff that keeps on coming up. And I do have to prioritize that, right? I do have to prioritize communicating with my team and doing the event stuff. And I try my best to like make some project times. So, yes, you could even start with your paper to-do list. And then you could move all those things onto the calendar.
Mm,
Another thing that has really helped me is theming my days.
yes.
And that is not for everyone. And it's also not for every week because, like, sometimes things
Yeah,
are wild. But generally, for me, Monday, I call like a CEO day. And sometimes that means I'm going to the grocery store.
yeah,
Sometimes that means I'm sitting outside and reading. Sometimes that means I am working on a really important project. Um, Whatever. Tuesdays and Thursdays, I tend to do like my meetings. I like to keep my meetings on those days. And then I also do like email work or event work.
mm,
Because again, for me, it's really hard to like switch tasks. And so the idea of all of this too is sort of like a batching situation, right? Or like uh conveyor, what's it called? Like the Ford conveyor
assembly
belt
line, right? Yeah,
assembly
yeah,
line,
yeah,
right? You're focusing on one sort of area at a time. So if
yeah,
I can really set aside Thursday for like event stuff and like that maybe includes PR and emailing and maybe Tuesday is like wholesale pitching and partnership pitching, right? It's sort of
yeah,
like the same vein. And
mhm,
then Wednesdays I try and do content or podcast or a big project and Fridays I tend to try and have empty as much as possible or focus on finances, which
yeah.
again really keeps on moving to other Fridays.
You're
Things
like, "Oh,
coming
next Friday."
up.
Yeah,
Like, it's not a perfect system, and your calendar is not stone, right? Like, please be flexible with it. But I find that these sort of things at least help me. They help me stay on task, they help me be more focused. I sort of like wake up enjoying some of these days, maybe some of these days more than others. Cause like, first of all, I will not make content if I have a bunch of emails to send and permits and blah, 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 blah. Those do not exist on the same day because they won't happen. That content will get moved to a different day. So,
yeah,
like, by keeping that day sort of like sacred for that thing as much as possible, depending on projects, whatever. Um, it gives space, it gives like freedom to it also. It gives you like freedom to like really dive into that creative project or like again, like I've been trying to rework some of my classes, like really I can't do write a class and speak on a class if I also have to talk to like the city of Oakland. Like
yeah. 2
that's not
different
going to
days.
happen. Yeah. And that's not for everyone, right? Maybe there's like a different thing that works for your brain, but I do know that it helps a lot of people.
Yeah,
Um, I also want to bring into folks into the equation who have a 9 to 5 and are also doing a side hustle or like raising a family or have other sort of
Yeah.
caretaking or other responsibilities. Like maybe you're only working with an hour and a half for your business each day. I still encourage you to schedule that because again, if that's not scheduled, you're going to go on your phone.
You're gonna
You're gonna
waste the
like,
first
I
20 to 30
promise.
minutes of the hour and a half that you
Yeah.
only have to be like, "Okay, what do I wanna do here?"
Yeah.
Instead of having it be yeah, and I think the part that you have said multiple times in that is, this might not work for you and it works for somebody else. How I schedule my time and how you schedule your time is totally different. How a mom schedules their time that works a 9 to 5 and is raising kids and has a side hustle, totally different from what works for you. Like, for me, I schedule out my stuff similar to what you do, but I do a big old dump list and I have like 100 things on my to-do list and I like to pick one or two and I put them onto the days that I want to do them. And to some people that might not work, to others it is. And so finding the time and just kind of the patience of all of it to be like, okay, what really does work for me, for my brain, finding how different people do it and taking inspiration, but understanding if you try it and you're like, this sucks and this doesn't work for me, it doesn't work for you, and you try somebody else's system, finding your own system and things like that as well.
Yeah.
I love it.
And it might take time. It might take time. And there's a
Yeah.
bunch of books about different systems. And like maybe you're more of a paper girly and that's cool. Like whatever works for you. But I strongly believe that the to-do list works for maybe a few people of the population.
Yeah, just like the people with a long list and they're just crossing them off from top to bottom. Unless you're cleaning your entire house and you're doing everything on your to-do list, probably not.
It's
Probably
yeah.
not. I
It
hear you.
just stresses me out thinking about
Yeah, you're like, "Ugh,
it.
a little anxious." Well, Phoebe, this has been such a great conversation. Thank you so much. Where can people find you? Where are your events at that they can either join or come to? Tell us about where they can stay in touch with you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. So you can follow me at Girl Gang Craft on Instagram, or my personal is at Phoebe Sherman. If you want to see pictures of my dog or like me going to the beach, or my snacks, that's on my personal. You can listen to our podcast, Girl Gang Craft the podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. And we also have feminist merch, witchy merch, some fun stuff over on our shop and girlgangcraft.com. And let's see, if this is out June 18th, we have our Salem events. That is June 22nd. That's North Shore Pride over here also. June 22nd, July 27th. We have Sacramento, August 8th. And then we have all of our winter events. I'm not going to say all the dates, but we did just announce 2 new cities. We're going to also be over here in Malden, Massachusetts. And then we do have a Sacramento holiday show that we just announced as well. So most of those winter apps are available if you're a vendor and you want to apply for one of our events. You can go onto our website, girlgangcraft.com/apply for those events. Those 2 new cities may or may not be up by the time this podcast is live. We'll see. Hopefully. So you can probably apply to all those. But yeah, stay in touch via Instagram, and that's the best way to learn about all of our offerings. And we have classes. There's so much. We have classes on email marketing, how to throw your own craft fair, if that's something that interests you. We have a video class and a brand partnership class. Yeah.
Cool. Well, I'll put all of her links below. Go there. We're also filming a episode on her podcast, the Girl Gang Craft podcast. You can go check it out there. And who knows when that will be out, but go check out and listen to her podcast as well. Thank you so much for being here, Phoebe. It's been great chatting with you.
Thank you.